You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience and mobility industry.
Well, welcome to Future of Convenience podcast. We're here talking about convenience and AI. I'm with two fuels industry guys. I think that's fair to say.
Yep.
Jeff, how many years at Shell?
37, Shell and Motiva combined.
37 years.
Yep.
And Doug, Parkland, Exxon, Mansfield.
Yeah, but quarter of a century under my belt, working in fuels and fuel retailing, supply, trading, distribution, kind of that. I've bounced around the supply chain a bit, kind of from refining all the way to running the stores, but love every part of it.
What if opening a store didn't take months, but days? VenHub is redefining convenience retail with fully autonomous, plug-and-play smart stores that operate 24/7 with zero staff on site. From airports to campuses to mixed-use developments, VenHub delivers always open access, real-time data, and faster paths to revenue. This is the future of convenience retail. Learn more at venhub.com.
So we're here together, sort of looking at what's happening with technology, aren't we? You're both in technology vendors now. AI is a big part of your world. Is it a big part of the fuels industry's world as well? Do you think? Thinking about your old mates in those oil companies. I mean, are they thinking about AI a lot, Doug?
I think there's a reasonable level of investment. I think it varies a lot by company. I think for the large integrated oil companies, where places like where we worked, they're probably investing in upstream first in a lot of ways. I know Exxon's used, we were using machine learning and early AI 20 years ago, right, in exploration and production, and downstream we just hope to get some we drafted on that work at times to try and get some cool stuff, but no, I think it varies a lot. I think the trading houses are investing at a furious pace. I think if you look at the Vitals and Glencores and Traffies of the world that are controlling and managing a lot of the fuel flows globally now, there's a lot of investment. I think when you get down to retail and execution, it's less so, but I think 2026 is going to be a kind of a make it real year for most of the industry.
Yeah, I certainly see people taking a toe dip, I'll say, in the retail world. Everywhere you go today, you're seeing something about AI. And so, at least my experience in big oil has been they don't want to get left behind. And so they are looking at the technology and seeing it. And I would say there's been more advancement in terms of technology in the last 5 years than the previous 20 years. There's just data and information is much more available, and people are making use of that. And they're finding efficiencies in their businesses, at least to try to understand it and figure out how to harness the power of it in their own businesses.
It's very interesting, because I spent a lot of my career in the fuels industry as well. But I mean, having said that, do you think it's quite a conservative industry in terms of the pace of change? If we're all honest with ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're a technology laggard, I think, in many ways, if the industry's honest, because we can be. I mean, we provide a kind of, at least to date, fairly irreplaceable product and service that it stays around, and so we have the luxury of time in many cases to, filter what's real from what's hype, and then, let others sort of break their pick on things that don't go anywhere, and make sure that when we get ready to execute, we do it well and we do it at scale.
And just to your point, Jeff, do you think that are we in a situation now where they are moving quicker? As you said, more change in the last 5 years than you've seen in the previous 20.
Yeah, I think they have to move quicker to be competitive.
Yeah.
But like Doug, I've moved on to startup type of companies, and the pace of change there and the ability to test and they're much more risk takers. And so the change there is much quicker than I've seen in the corporate big oil type of environment out there. They just, it's going to take time for them to adapt to today's new world, I'll say.
Yeah, all of us, I guess. But tell us about NewTide, Doug, and what you're doing there.
So NewTide is an enterprise AI platform where we basically provide three components. One of which gets a lot of attention is the agents. So the actual, agents that you talk to, work with, assign tasks to, help you do work, et cetera. Those are fairly fun, but they're not as useful as they would be without data. So we have a product called Data Hub And the Data Helm product pulls together, you think about all your data that's in contracts but isn't in the ERP system. So when I go to do business with somebody, I think I know what the terms were, but legal has that shared in some file folder somewhere, right? Or SharePoint or OneDrive. We have an intelligence layer that pulls together all that contextual data, stuff that's not in a database, with all of the actual stuff that is in your databases, and understands how it's related and brings context to that, and then exposes that to the agent, because the agent, while being very smart, I mean, these things have, sort of college graduate IQs now, in a raw processing sense, but without being connected to context and kind of knowing, well, like, how does stuff work around here, and who does what, how does it happen, what processes do you use to get work done? Like, it's just sort of a idiot savant, right? So if you're not careful. Yeah. So wiring that together with data, and then we have a workflow orchestration product called Shipyard that pulls together the agents with actual work. So it moves from that, hey, I have a really smart, chatting assistant that helps me do a lot more work, to I want to give it its own work now, and actually assign it tasks, but I want to know that it's guided in a workflow, that it's executing as prescribed and not like inventing its own stuff or hallucinating, as people say. And so we bring those 3 layers together to get automation done for everybody from supply and trading shops down through refining to the actual retail source.
And are you seeing implementation of that technology? It's not just piloting anymore.
No, I mean, for us, 2025 was our sort of prove it year. Get beyond like, hey, is this stuff real? So I wanted a customer in each link of the supply chain. So we have a large global supply and trading business that's executing with it. We have distribution, kind of midstream distribution companies that move it from the refinery up the pipe through the terminal on a truck and get it to a customer. And then we have actual C-store operators that have a chain of C-stores, and we're deployed at all links of that chain. Typically, most customers, we tell them pick a boring but useful use case to start with. That's not like, don't go spend a lot of money thinking, oh, I'm going to change my business. Yeah. Spend a little bit of money learning how this stuff works, how to use it, how to get value out of it, and how to get real automation done in your business, and then build on that from a position of, hey, I already built something that pays for itself and it's making me money now. Now I can just reinvest that and keep going versus, hey, I got to pull budget from other things and sort of hope this works out. Like, that's not a strategy we think is advisable.
No. Well, we're surrounded by retailers from all over the world. They're all sort of looking around excitedly. Obviously, AI is on every booth, more or less, isn't it? It's everywhere. Yep. What's your impression of NRF so far? What grabs you, Jeff?
Yeah, this is the first time I've been to NRF. It's exciting. I mean, you can see around us, there's a lot of people. The one thing I've really recognized, a lot of technology here, all the vendors, and a lot of people outside the United States really thirsty for understanding the technology and bringing in their own use cases for different technology that is being offered here. So it's really exciting.
It's definitely got a very global feel, hasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I'm a devotee of the NAC show. I guess we've all gone to the NAC show, and it does feel very different from the NAC show, doesn't it?
Yes, I would say this is, I've been going to NACs for 25 years, and
me too.
This is not NACS, right? So much broader reach, feels much more global. But again, a lot of common vendors and suppliers. When you walk up and down the aisles, a lot of them are at NACS as well. So I think it's interesting. I think it'd be good for more C-store retailers to maybe try this experience and get a little bit different flavor than they get just by going to NACS.
Yes.
I'm always going to be a NACS advocate because sitting on their board and such, I'm a big fan. There are other places to get information, so we want to make sure we explore those as well.
Yeah, I agree. Just thinking about the big secret out there that you've discovered from when you crossed over to the vendor side. I mean, how has it changed your worldview, of the industry and the opportunities in it, would you say?
Well, I think one of the best insights you can have from having been a supplier or an operator, having run trucks or refineries or stores yourself, is like, you understand how much focus and intensity that takes to do that reliably, safely, profitably. And I think so many technology vendors, they're so fascinated with their shiny new thing, and they're excited about what it does, but they don't really fully understand how to bring that into that business successfully and fit in such a way that isn't disruptive, but also is supportive. And it's a hard thing to do. And I think I see that time and time again. Everybody's like, well, I have this new gizmo. Don't you love it? And I may love it. It may be the best thing I've seen since pockets on a t-shirt. Like, this is a really good thing. But if I can't see a path to how I get that into my business while also juggling the 48,000 other things I got to get done today, then nothing happens. So I think where I find that, switching to the other side so valuable is having run stores myself and having done that work. It's helping these technology providers figure out, like, how do you go in, provide quick value, understand how to work with these operators in a way that immediately connects with them, that isn't about the technology, it's about their business.
Yeah. There's some practical experience that I think folks like us bring to these, I'll say, startup kind of new companies out there. And that's the value we bring in terms of, what type of product, how to roll out that product, who to connect with, so that they can resonate and understand the value of the services and the products we bring. So in one of my businesses I work with is Upside. We're a two-sided marketplace where we bring customers and merchants together by offering promotional discounts, and we're proven incremental business to those merchants, and we share in the value with that. And so that whole concept started with folks that understand the business and can relate to the business, that help them grow their business. They started in fuels, now they've moved to restaurants and grocery stores is the kind of next future for them.
Very good point. Just on the point that you made about, let's solve the challenges that our industry has, as opposed to, bright shiny toys. What are the challenges? What are the key challenges that need solving? Perhaps you go first on that, Doug.
Well, I think, really attracting, retaining, and motivating the talent we need to run a great business is always the number one challenge, at least in my experience over the last 25 years. Like, there's, assuming that you have access to capital, and, we fortunately, at least I've largely been in the US market where we've always had a growing market. We've had there's plenty of customers, right? And there's the opportunity to build lots of stores, but can you staff them with excellence? Can you execute reliably and predictably? And I think, tools that allow us to advance in those areas are going to be the most valuable. It's one of the things that flipped for me when I started really going down the rabbit hole on AI versus all the other technology I've used for decades, is that it's not about the technology, it's about, hey, I'm not using this to sort of automate just a process. I'm actually creating a digital workforce that now complements my human workforce in a very powerful way, and it multiplies my workforce overall. So if I open up my org chart and I say, here's all the people in my company that were so important to me that I created a specific job description and skills and requirements and all this stuff, from HR to legal to pricing to merchandising, et cetera, right? Every one of them has the opportunity to now have kind of a super intelligence helping them be more productive and helping them kind of multiply themselves. So what I see is, like, that's always been our biggest challenge is labor, people, staff, and it gets harder and harder as you go down the chain. The hardest place is typically at the store to staff that reliably. I mean, even at our stores, if we got close to 100% turnover, we were excited, right? Because bad stores were at 250. And so, when you think about that versus most other businesses, that is the primary and fundamental challenge. If you can master that, then I think you can be an excellent retailer. And I think, AI gives us a totally different opportunity to create that digital workforce and augment that labor force, which fundamentally to me has always been our biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, making your team smarter.
Yes, without a doubt. So Doug mentioned something about the one thing that I think is changing in the industry is demand is now flat to going down. And that means to grow, you have to take away business from your competitors out there, or you have to get much more efficient at operations. And it's things like VenHub, who don't have employees, so there's no labor costs, and there's no theft. And so it's things like that if you can be more efficient than the rest of the competition, that's where AI and technology can help this industry as a whole.
Yeah. So looking at the future, looking at where we're all going, where would you see, looking ahead 5-10 years, where do you see the industry ending up?
Oh, I think we're going to continue to run better and better stores. I think you're going to see execution get to levels where we have a much greater percentage of the stores out there. We have roughly 150,000 stores in the US. When in my many years of working with NACS and state of the industry and all the data that we collect, I mean, between top quartile and bottom quartile is, on a blind test, you'd be challenged to identify that they're in the same business, right? I mean, they're such radical difference. So to me, it's like, I think the opportunity is that, you take those middle quartile operators with these tools and these capabilities and this level of intelligence, and they're going to be able to step up closer to those top level, top tier operators that have done it with brute force and just a relentless commitment to execution that the others just couldn't rally. And I think now that, I can have a digital workforce augmenting my people, I have a better shot at getting there. And I think we're going to see the results on the street with better stores, better shopping experience. I refer to it as being quieter because there's less emergencies, there's less stockouts, there's less, drama. The stores just run, you want it to run like a perfect watch, right?
Yeah, much slicker operations.
Yeah. And
better business.
And when it's running smooth, it's running quiet.
Yeah.
And that gives you the opportunity to focus on the customer, have a very intimate experience, not have that noise that's surrounding your people today. Yeah. And your best people are executing amongst, a chaos and a cacophony of distractions. And if we can automate that stuff, get it out of their way and let them focus on the customer, then the customer and the operator both win.
I like that point, it's quieter. I think you're absolutely right. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think technology will help us to go down that path. So it's all the technology and automation in terms at the store level, in terms of checkout experience, until making sure every item is faced properly, there's no stockouts. There's technology I've been talking and dealing with in terms of listening to the cashier such that you could coach them along in terms of knowing, tied into the POS, did they offer you a rewards program? If there was a 2-for-1 offer, did you offer that to the customer? And you're getting hard data to help coach and give performance on that cashier. That's going to make the customer experience that much better. And I see technology helping us go down that road, 10 years down the road. The other thing I would also say that I predict that's going to happen down the road is more consolidation in the industry.
Yeah.
The bigger will keep getting bigger, and they'll be able to, the scale will help them introduce that technology in their businesses across their stores.
Yeah, these super regionals. I'm just going to throw in one great case which illustrates the point you both been making, which is we did some store visits with Quick Trip in the Chicago market, and they've implemented some AI with Symphony AI, which is all about managing their stock levels, and it takes workload off the store teams, and I think it's now very popular with the store teams. Now they've realized that. They've also got cleaning robots, I think, and in Quick Trip, you always used to walk in the door and there were
somebody's always cleaning,
right. And they'd almost mop in front of you, and it created a good impression. Now they've got robots doing that, and so the staff have always been, I imagine, you'll know this better than me, but they've always been highly trained to engage with the customers.
Correct.
When they come in, when they serve them, when they leave. And I really noticed that was stronger than maybe that was a particularly good store, but that eye contact was really well trained. Yeah. And it really was a point of difference for them. So I think it's a great illustration of what you gents have just been talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, they do a great job of training their people. And I think you're going to use technology to recognize how you train people in terms of that. So when they are engaging with the customer, they're keeping those customers. And that's going to be differentiating for some companies in terms of attracting customers.
So we can't see the whole future, but we're starting to see pieces of the future emerge, aren't we, Doug?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you commented earlier, I do think, fuel is going to continue to be challenged as a category. I mean, we kind of opened with that, and you mentioned that. I looked at Opus had their Store Pro report out today, and it was same store, if you compare to pre-COVID 2019 numbers, we're down 23.8%. Now, there's sampling and all this other noise in there. Gasoline demand is not down that much, but traditional C-store demand at those outlets is certainly, when you have 25% less customers, you're going to have to evolve and adapt quite rapidly, right? So I think the focus on service, food service has been a huge focus of the industry now for 20 years, but just executing more cleanly, more quietly, more reliably, I think is going to be as imperative as ever, because there's just not as many customers that have to make that stop because they're on empty and they're coming in one way or the other, right? So now you got to pull them in for other reasons.
And of course, we've got EV as a big part of the business in the European market increasingly as well.
Yeah, what does that look like for you? Because it sounds like the UK is about 5 times greater adoption in the US right now, the last time I looked. So what's that feel like when
well,
you're on the...
I mean, I'd always start off in the Nordics, and that's where you see the real shift happening. And then the UK is moving very quickly. I mean, we don't have any tariffs on Chinese vehicles, none. So we're not an EU, remember. So the UK is a happy hunting ground for BYD at the moment. So this could be.
How cheap are they?
They are cheap in their ticker price,
right?
And then you talk to them, and they're even cheaper under the table. Effectively, call this guy, he will give you this deal, and everyone gets that call. So that's a whole podcast. We can't do that today, but I've been spending a lot of time looking at that. I was over in China recently interviewing BYD. It's a video we'll see soon. So it's a fascinating change, and we've got to keep an eye on it. We really got to keep an eye on it.
I think the biggest difference in the U.S. is that we never made our fuel expensive, right? So I mean, the motivation to not have to buy fuel, if I'm in Norway and it's $7 or $8 a gallon and it's $2.50 here, and I think as we destroy demand in other countries and other channels, it creates oversupply, which actually makes the product cheaper here for longer. So it just, I think the U.S. market's going to be amazingly resilient in fuel demand overall, mainly because it's just so cheap compared to other places.
I certainly see a slow adoption towards EV in today's world in the U.S.
I think you're
for
right.
all the reasons Doug just mentioned. In terms
we'll have to have another podcast on that. Well, thank you for joining us on Future Convenience Podcast. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by, and enjoy the rest of the NRF show. There's lots to see, isn't there?
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks, Dan.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced and edited and mixed by Carolyn Schneer, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Learn more at globalconvenience.com. Before you go, I want to tell you about a new exciting competition from Insight Research. The Smartest Store in the World competition is focused on the decisive adoption of new technologies. We'll showcase what best practice looks like as the convenience retail industry tips from pilots to production. This competition goes beyond a focus on the 4 walls of the store and looks at tech developments in the whole retail value chain. Compete to have your store declared the smartest store in the world. Win recognition, press, and the bragging rights of being at the forefront of technology as AI and technology supercharges retail. Entries are due March 26th. The Smartest Store in the World competition is hosted by Insight Research and NACS, along with Accenture serving as the official knowledge partner. It's sponsored by Invenco, powered by Vontier, Plexor, and VenHub. Head over to globalconvenience.com and search the Smartest Store competition to learn more.